I just hopped off a call with a gentleman going over his retirement plan, and he was genuinely stressed, thinking he did not have enough to retire. I looked at his numbers and I told him honestly, you're sitting on one of the most powerful retirement tools. Most people never fully understand. He had a pension and absolutely no idea how that changes things. If you have a pension, the way you think about retirement, the way you invest, and the decisions you make are completely different than everyone else. And if you're not approaching it that way, you're leaving serious money on the table. By the end of this video, you will know why and exactly what to do with it. Before I get into it, let me first explain what a pension is. For those of you who are lucky enough to actually have a pension, basically what it is for those who work at a company, a government, or something like that, they, instead of having to put away money into a 401k, a 403b, or some other type of retirement account, the company actually put away money into a pension, which now means is that they are going to pay you a certain amount. Typically is going to be something in regards to the percentage of your income. Think like the average highest 3 years of your salary that you made over the lifetime of your career. And they're going to make that at a certain percentage based on how long you worked for that company, right? So it could be 60%, maybe all the way up to 75%, and obviously it's going to increase. The cool thing about a pension and why it actually is very powerful, it's on the obligation is on the company to continue to pay you in perpetuity, no matter how long you live. So it actually is extremely powerful and takes the burden of the investment and the risk off the table for you and puts it on the company that you were working with. Here's the first thing that people with pensions are thinking wrong about retirement. When it comes to retirement, the big thing is cash flow. Really what we're trying to accomplish in retirement is to replace the income that you were making while you were working. When you think about a pension, the number for that is very different, because sometimes that pension actually is going to fill that entire gap of what you need as far as cash flow in retirement. So it's a completely different scenario and strategy when we actually are working with people with a pension, because their cash flow completely changes because a large chunk is already guaranteed by the company they were working with, and it's already coming in, and there's already COLAs or cost of living adjustments that are going to help keep pace with inflation. So it's a much safer place to be in regards to their cash flow and their investments. And it's worth a lot of money, probably worth millions upon millions of dollars sometimes when you think about these pensions and how much they are. To that extent, a lot of people are discounting how valuable it is, and they're thinking too much and putting too much reliance on what their actual investments are and not thinking about that pension anymore. So that leads into the next big change a pension makes, which is how much you actually need saved. Let me show you how this actually works in retirement. If we look at the traditional way of thinking when it comes to investments, and let's just use the 4% rule because it's been tried and true. If let's say your expenses are $80,000 in retirement, that typically means you're gonna need $2 million saved, right? 4% of $2 million is gonna be $80,000. That's a pretty big gap, and it's a pretty big number that you actually have to hit as far as having $2 million saved in investable assets across many different accounts. If we look at to a pension account, let's say we had a gentleman who was making $100,000, right? And that was his highest average 3 of his career. Now say he worked there for quite a time and he gets 60%, which is kind of a low number in regards to some pensions. So 60% of $100,000 is 60 grand. Now the gap between what he needs in retirement and what he's already collecting is much, much smaller than normal, right? Because it's not a $2 million account that he needs anymore. It's actually much smaller than that, because if you think about it, he is already receiving $60,000 from his pension, and what he really needs is $80,000 is what he's spending in retirement. So the gap is only $20,000. That's not a $2 million account anymore he needs at a 4% rule. That's only $500,000 or $500,000 you need, which is way different. That's like $2 million is 4 times the size of what you actually have to save. So it completely changes the dynamic of what you're planning for in retirement when you only need a smaller number, because you already are set with set income that's guaranteed by the company. Which brings me to something I see people get wrong constantly: how pension holders invest their portfolios. Here's what I see all the time. I have a client come in, they have a pension, and then they show me their investment portfolio and their IRAs, their 401ks, or whatever accounts they might have. And I see that they're very conservative when it comes to their investments, right? Which typically tracks what normal people would do. As they get closer to retirement, you typically want to get more conservative, because the fluctuations or the roller coaster that you get with the market isn't exactly what you want to see in retirement. You want to kind of have more of a steady road. But the issue though is that with a pension, you already have that guaranteed income, which is making the road already already less roller coastery. And the fact is so now, like I mentioned before, is you don't need nearly as much. And so once we hit that number, we kind of already have it set amount. And so we can actually be maybe a little bit more aggressive based on the goals, risk tolerance, and the time frame for each individual client. So it's not a set in stone rule, but I have seen quite a few people just follow kind of the tried and true, we'll say, information that's out there as you get closer to retirement, you should be more conservative, fully discounting the fact that they have a pension already, which we almost could probably look at as a fixed income investment already because of the guaranteed nature of it from the company. That leads directly into the thing that makes this even more urgent. The one enemy of a pension that the most people never fully reckon with until it's too late. Most pensions don't have enough cost of living adjustments or COLAs. And the fact is that you as a pensionee don't get to control how much it increases over time. And yet inflation, you also don't have control over, and it is constantly increasing over time. And we don't have to go too far back in time to see inflation at extremely high levels comparative to the average. And that actually can hurt you in regards to you have a set amount coming in, but yet your expenses are going up more than what your set amount is coming in, which leads into the problem in the sense of being too conservative, as I said before, on your investments, in the sense of that we need to keep pace with inflation so that your lifestyle isn't changed or altered within retirement. And so what we need to do is look at those investments differently so that we can keep pace with inflation, take what we need to maintain your lifestyle, and have those investments actually working for you. So that's where we really need to be looking at the investment and make sure that they're not too conservative and not keeping pace with inflation so that we can adjust based on what we need to take extra, because the COLAs we don't have control over and inflation we don't have control over either, but we do have control over how we invest the investments that are yours. If you're confused or unsure about your retirement, click the link in the bio and book a call with me, and we can go over your personal situation to see what makes the most sense for you. Let's keep going, because what comes next is just as important. The lump sum versus your monthly payment decisions. And this one is worth really slowing down on because most people get it wrong. Most people think that the lump sum is the best decision to make, and that's actually not true. It really is dependent on your own current situation, but let's kind of walk through it. The lump sum can be very beneficial if you're working for a private company or something like that, and you're not that confident about the company you're working for as far as their financial nature. That's when the lump sum can actually make sense, because the fact is that the pension is only good as the company that's giving it, right? It's the full faith and guarantee of that company that they promise to pay you month in, month out. So if you have concerns about their financial nature or anything like that, then yeah, the lump sum might be better because, you know, bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. But for the surprisingly amount of pensions that are out there, they're very strong. They're very financially stable. And so to that end, taking the monthly distribution can actually be the much smarter move, because one, it has COLAs, but two, it also helps protect against the sequence of returns in the sense of that they are going to promise to pay you a certain amount every single month for the rest of your life, right? No matter what the market does, whether we go through another 08 again, whether we go through another COVID again, you're going to get the same amount of money month in, month out, because they're taking on the risk, they're paying for it, and they're investing the money for you to make sure you continue to get your money, which can actually be a much safer place to be for you in retirement. So again, it is dependent on your situation, but most of the time, the monthly pension can be very powerful. The most people find that the pension is paying out a rate that would be nearly impossible to replicate reliably from a portfolio over a 30-year time period. But the lump sum decision is not the most important one. The most important decision you will make around your pension is this one, and it cannot be undone once you sign the form. Single life versus joint survivor benefits. And I want you to hear me clearly on this one, because this decision is irrevocable. When it comes to making this decision for you and your spouse, you really want to think about it very clearly. And you want to look at all your assets and everything that you have in place. You also want to look at lifespans, difference in age between you and your spouse. Because the fact is that if you pick a single life, how that works is that it is only on the pensionee's life, right? So if they pass away at any given time, that money that's coming in is done. No more. It will not be coming in to that family at all. So you want to really think about that, because if you don't have enough assets in other places or other resources that are going to actually supplement the surviving spouse, they're going to be in trouble, and you left them in essence in a very bad situation that you don't want to do. Most spouses don't want to leave their surviving spouse without money to survive or maintain the lifestyle that they've built together. So to that end, you want to take this one very clearly in the sense of whether you decide the surviving benefit should be 100% or 50% or somewhere anywhere in between that, just so that it's right for you guys, knowing where your assets are, your liabilities are, everything comes into play on this one. But a lot of times it's 100% going to make sense to have a surviving benefit at some level, just so that the surviving spouse can continue to receive income and maintain the lifestyle that you guys have built. Look, a pension is a rare thing. Most people your age are building retirement out of the market returns and saving rates and a lot of hope that all the numbers work out. You have something they do not, a guaranteed floor, a check that shows up every month, regardless of what the market does. It only becomes the foundation that it's meant to be when you look at it with clear eyes, when you understand the inflation problem and you build around it, when you think about your portfolio correctly and you make the right call on the lump sum. That gentleman I was on the phone with at the beginning of this video left the call with a completely different perspective on where he stood. Not because the numbers changed, because he finally understood what he actually had. If you're ready to plan for retirement the right way, click the link in the bio and book a call with me. It's completely free, and I promise you, you will not regret it. I'll see you there.